fine. But yeah, without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our guest today. With us, we have Alex Loza. He is the Senior Director of Digital Sales at Televisa Univision, the biggest Spanish language producer of premium programming and content in the world. Alex is a first-generation Hispanic and grew up in Southgate, California, where he attended high school. He later on went to receive his AA degree from El Camino College and received his BA from the University of Southern California. So welcome, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, so we really appreciate it. We have a mix of students on right now, and I'm sure they have a lot of questions about what you do or, just, the company in general. So I'll let you go ahead and reintroduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you're coming from.
Yes. Thanks everybody for joining. My name's Alex Loza. I am as Olivia noted, I am the Senior Director of Digital Sales at Televisa Univision. If you haven't heard of Televisa Univision, turn on channel 34 and anywhere else you can see a lot of our content. Your parents have grown up with it. We have grown up with it. It's a lot of that content and a lot of the programming that you guys see across any other Spanish language network as well. So excited to kind of share a little bit more about what I've my path thus far, and then what I do as well with the company. And then as always, I'm happy to take on any questions. So I actually, as we've noted, graduated from the University of Southern California, USC. Fight on, go Trojans, and got my my bachelor's degree from in marketing. Graduated many moons ago, so I'm not going to say how old I am, but many moons ago. Had a great time when I was there, enjoyed every single minute of it, as well as got some really good friendships out of it. I now transitioning over to my career. I've been with Televisa Univision for about 5 years now. Over that lifespan, I've kind of evolved into many different things. I currently work with all the major brands that are doing any type of like cool custom fun activations on the network. And so kind of give you a little bit more of what that means is I only work on the digital side. So anything that is related to like streaming platforms, to digital website, to within our ecosystem, digital websites, and anything within our social channels, Facebook, IG, TikTok, Snap, you name it. It's all around that. I'm sure you guys are familiar with what branded content is and what influencers kind of do. I work with all of that cool, fun stuff and kind of work on how we can leverage that type of marketing and communication to really embed brands in unique ways that will make their kind of campaigns and their their messaging really exciting for our community, Latinos as a whole. So that was kind of in a nutshell.
Thanks, Alex. I mean, you touched on a lot of really good things there about, what your job entails. How did you come across this initial job, or how did you get interested in this field?
It's funny. So I'm kind of a rare breed. I actually always wanted to be in advertising. I always, growing up, I would see all these commercials, on TV while I'm watching TV, all these commercials in the Super Bowl, and I'd be like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty funny. I like that, or I would do that, or I would do that, right? So a lot of that was really kind of that creative juice and that creative vibe that kind of comes with the business. I didn't know exactly what ultimately that was, but as soon as I started learning more about the industry and the business and the different brands, I started kind of figuring out what I wanted to focus on, which was mainly digital, digital and social. Right now we spend tons of time on our phones, watching content on social media or watching content on our phones and our websites, YouTube and so on. So a lot of that really kind of attracted to me it was kind of attracting to me and kind of caused my direction in my career. So it's really kind of evolved into what I am now, and it's kind of growing into even more so where it's going to be and what brands are doing when talking to Hispanics.
Yeah, that's really cool that you have always had this interest. I feel like some people, they kind of along the way find pieces of maybe parts of careers that they like and kind of come together at the end of college or maybe further. But when you went into college, were you set on the major that you had and you already kind of knew what you wanted to pursue, or did you take a little bit of time to kind of find what you want?
I actually took a lot of time. So after high school, I was one of, I was one of those kids that I played high school football. I was an athlete. I wasn't really focused on school. I think it was just, I was not at the level of maturity that I needed to be, and kind of in the mentality that I needed to be. So what I did was, took some time off, went, did things that were just more about like work and focus on that. After a while, after like 3 years of doing that, I noticed that I was just not going to make the type of money that I wanted to make, that I was inspired, that would inspire me to kind of continue to go on. So from one day to the next, I literally went with a friend to El Camino, just inquiring about school. I signed up, took a couple classes, and the rest is history. Like, so, you know, overall, that was not my ultimate goal, but realizing the experience that I got with, the struggles of working and just kind of taking on a trade and doing things that um, didn't really were more kind of, let's just say, more kind of easy to do kind of work tasks, and not really kind of using my mind to make a difference or to impact my career. Those are things that really kind of triggered a whole new experience and a whole new evolution of what I wanted to do.
So it sounds like within that journey, you found more like your passion, what was going to drive you, right? It wasn't just about the day-to-day job. Okay, I'm getting a check. It was, am I going to enjoy this day to day? Am I really going to like this as I'm going on? Which is super
Yeah.
important for a lot of students, right? And it's really hard to make that decision, right? As you're going through school. And you said you started at community college. So what was that like for you in terms of like career exploration and those experiences before you went on to get your bachelor's at USC?
It was hard because I think, going through high school, like I said, I was more into sports than I was into school. So for me, it was really a change in behavior, a change in who I was, because I really didn't have the skill set that was needed to go to college. So I felt like I needed to make sure that I started right. And that's really what, El Camino and the community college environment created. It allowed me to kind of get ready, because that was something that I was lacking. So definitely helped tremendously. And it also helped, financially. Like, to be honest, like, I know school can be kind of intimidating when you look at what it's costing, but knowing that the community system is there to help kind of offset some of that, allow you to get the education and allow you to kind of grow and really catch up to the maturity level that you need to be to really kind of get a degree, which was always great.
So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you had a great experience at community college, and it saves students a lot of money, right? It gives you a little time to figure out what you want to do in the exploration. So kind of going in the exploration phase for your career, how did you prepare in terms of maybe internships or getting that experience that you needed to take those next steps, right? Whether that was in college, pursuing that major, or that first job out of college.
Yeah, it was, I mean, I always knew that I wanted to do something creatively, something in marketing. I always knew that I had the personality to be in sales. So I think I combined those two and really focused on the curriculum and the type of classes that would develop and to help me kind of navigate the waters and figure it out as I go. So I think it was really about focusing on what my strengths were and kind of building on those strengths. Building on my passion for creativity, building on my passion for speaking in public and doing things that were going to evolve into who I wanted to be ultimately, and then everything else just kind of worked out. In reality, in the end, it was about my perseverance to be in this industry and to really do what I needed to do may it be networking, or may it be through school, or some sort of connection, or some sort of friend of some type that was going to open doors. It was really kind of exploring any and all options to kind of get here.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. Like not closing any doors, essentially, right? Like all those, leaving all options on the table when you're in college, right? And I think that's what we try to tell our students as they go through. You're gonna have a lot of opportunities, so right, try to take advantage of all of them. Right, it's only going to help you grow at this point. Were there any particular experiences that you had in college that you feel really prepared you outside of school, internships or networking or even mentorship?
Yeah, I did have I was part of an organization at USC called the Latino Business Student Association. I think that helped me make connections that were meaningful, right? And ultimately what I mean by that is, there's a lot of connections, there's a lot of network or things at schools that allow you to have access to different things, right? But there's not a lot that will allow you to have that cultural connection. So I think for me, when joining the LBSA, it was really about having the connection within people of my culture, and getting those connections to kind of grow and evolve. I think to this day, I still have some really close friends that I've met there, those relationships that I've kind of built on, and I go with them on a regular basis, not only just as friends, but also I think we collaborate as, we mentor each other, because we have that passion, we have that drive, and ultimately try to open doors for each other as needed. Because it's, even though we are getting to a point where Latinos are, a bigger part of the population, we still have to, pave our way and kind of figure it out so that it's easier for the rest of us.
Mhm. Yeah. And like what you were saying before, persevering through maybe some of these challenges that are going to come up, right? As a person of color, trying to take on maybe some new roles or new fields. So that definitely resonates. Um, Talking a little bit about challenges and maybe like your work, is there anything that has stood out, that stands out to you as a challenge that you've had to overcome, whether that's in your particular field or just in the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One thing with my industry and what I do, and probably as you guys all experience it, right? There's a new social platform every other day. There's a new type of content that's being created, right? You guys are following a new creator, a new influencer in a new way, because they're creating content in some format or some way that really appeals to you guys. You guys are streaming stuff and type of programming on like YouTube and other platforms where it's like, that's cool because it's trendy. Like, it's keeping up with all that. There's so much going on in this world as it relates to what has your attention. And really that's a challenge in itself, because I'm trying to keep up with that so that I am bringing brands into those arenas and those platforms where you guys will find it cool that they're talking to you in those tones, in those platforms, and on those chat, the ways of communicating. So um I think that's really what keeps me on my toes, is that there is no, call it, transactional way of doing business for me. It's more like an ever evolving kind of carousel of just like ways of doing stuff. And sometimes you come up with some really cool stuff, and sometimes it's some really easy stuff that you didn't know was going to work as good as it is. But it's a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of ways of kind of looking at it too.
And so that constant growth, that challenge, that learning. Okay, so it didn't just stop right after college. It wasn't just
Oh
I got
yeah,
my degree and I've learned everything, right? It's a lot of retraining or learning things in a different way, right? So I think
yeah,
that's really
exactly.
important to tell
Yeah,
students, right? It's not just the degree.
yeah, because it's, especially because it's not just about like me, it's about like the generations that are coming, and every generation has its own nuance. Every generation has its own things that they admire, that they want to follow, that they are passionate about. So it's continuing to kind of grow on that too.
Not just the technical piece, but like, socially keeping up, like you
Yep.
said, with the trends. So when you were looking for, it seems like you found like this dream job, right? Kind of your passions and what you really like to do kind of all aligned. So when you were looking for this first kind of job outside of college, what were you feeling in that moment of that search? Did you know for sure this, I'm going to get this job, or I already know where I'm going to land, or did it take a little bit more time for you?
It took a long time. It was not easy. I think, you know, when you start out, you have a vision of what you want to do, and you're, you know, in your head, you're sitting at a chair, you're doing everything that you thought a job was, or, you know, what a position will entail. It wasn't that. Like, it's you don't know what you don't know, right? So the more you understand the industry, or, you know, or you follow your passion, there's going to be a lot of bumps and bruises. There's going to be a lot of headaches. There's going to be a lot of obstacles that you're never going to want to overcome. And there's going to be the ones that you're going to feel really excited that you did overcome. So I think it was a lot of that. But at the same time, I think it was just the continuous strive to knowing that there was a sliver of passion that was driving my every move. And that ultimately, if I wanted to accomplish, you know, serenity, or just, you know, that moment where it's like, I'm excited to do something, it was going to come at a cost. And I think that ultimately helped me kind of figure out, like, oh, this is something that doesn't matter if it's going to be small or big, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to figure it out.
Oh, that's really great. Like, it's not going to come easy, right? If it's something you really enjoy and you love to do it, you're going to put your all in it, regardless of what it takes. That's really great.
Yeah.
I find that drive, find that passion that's going to keep you going, that you're not going to want to give up no matter how hard it is. That's super
Yes.
important. Let's see. So, can you take us through maybe a typical day for you, Alex, in your role and what that looks like?
Geez. So
Or as
I,
typical as it can
I,
be.
I know. I start off. I really do start off with knowing a little bit of what my day looks. So in other words, the number of calls that I have scheduled. On average, I have, like, you know, 6, 7 calls a day, where I'm doing a couple different things. I'm either being strategic about what a brand, or defending what a brand is doing. So in other words, did they invest their dollars in the right way? So in other words, are we looking at the right social platform for an activation? So in other words, should we be using TikTok versus YouTube? Should we be looking at, you know, influencers versus or the brand creating the content themselves? So it's like starting that, and there's a lot of those conversations, a lot of strategy of, like, answering the whys. Then there's the account management side of it. So in other words, so now you got to make sure that you're fulfilling those strategies. So you're looking at what you presented, and you're making sure that the entire team is executing on that. So are we making sure that what we need from them is being done, what we promise them is being accomplished? And then lastly, it's also, the really cool thing about it is keeping the relationships going. You know, my business is about relationships. So if it's like going out to dinners, hanging, you know, having lunches, going out to, you know, events, you know, Laker games, you know, Dodger games, it's going out to concerts. It's like a lot of people put a lot of they put a lot of effort into doing business with us. So we got to make sure that we make sure that we reciprocate that, and then we provide them the value of not only our business, but also the relationship that we need to give them, so that they continue to see the growth in our company.
Mm. You bring up a lot of really good points, Alex, where it's not just the technical piece of what your job is, it's a lot outside of that, right? There's a lot of transferable skills that you're using in your day-to-day that you may or may not, learn in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like what you use in your day-to-day that is beyond just, like you already said, the relationship piece, but what else do you use in your day-to-day that's not just the technical piece of it?
Yeah, I think the biggest part is who I am. And I think that really kind of, like, I use that on a regular basis, because being at Univision, Televisa Univision, I am the demographic. I am the people, the person that they want to speak to. So putting my, my family, putting my experiences, my history, and noting that as why brands should be talking to me is really what I do on a regular basis. I put out my experiences and who I like, why I was raised this way, and where I'm going with, how I'm raising my children. These are all things that I put into perspective and really put them inject them in really strategic ways. So it's not just about, hey, I'm Latino, right? It's not about that. Or I was raised, with 5 siblings. No, it's about when I was a kid, I did this, and this is the impact that it's now having on me as an adult. So how I spend my money, what I focus on with my children, like what I want them to be and see within this is all things that really kind of drive and kind of feed into what I do on a regular basis.
Mm. So bringing yourself into that space, not trying to be anything that you're not, but highlighting, right, how you're an asset to this team, this mission, right? Has that
Correct.
always been, has that always been easy, being able to bring like your full self into whatever space that you're in? Because I know that can also be a challenge for students, trying to be authentic while also, you're trying to be professional, and you also want to make sure that you keep your job and things like that.
Yeah, no, I would say, to be honest, I didn't realize this till later in my career. Like, I didn't realize the value of who I am and why people like hired me until later on, and as soon as I started figuring that out, I started injecting it more and more into my everyday life. I know it's hard. I know it's not an easy thing because, growing up, you don't always have the storybook, view of what you're doing, and that, you grew up in that scenario where it's like, oh, this is worth telling. But it is, there's a lot of value in who you are and what you do and why you're doing it. So that the sooner you're able to discover that value internally, the better it's going to be suited for you, for your career and everything that you do, because there's a lot of people out there that want to hear that don't have that. And so I think there's a lot of value in that, and definitely own it, because it's not, I know it's not easy, but as soon as you do it, it's very valuable.
Yeah, that confidence, right? If you're confident in yourself, other people will see that and kind of, that you bring that good energy, right? That confident energy, you know what you're doing, right? Do you have
Correct.
any tips for that? Like when you are feeling maybe not the most confident, or you do want to bring in that energy, do you have any advice for students?
Yeah, I would say, just don't give up, just keep on going. I would say there was probably a lot more obstacles and challenges that I had to live through to now live the lifestyle that I do. So I think one thing that I've always kind of noted, as when talking to anybody that's younger than me, it's you should never be living more value than you are struggles. So in other words, if you haven't struggled and you haven't overcome a struggle, you don't know the value of what life is going to be. Because without that, you're just living life, and it's not, you're not going to get anything out of it. It's just going to continue to be the same thing. If you know how to overcome things, and you are ready to kind of overcome them in any which way, I think there's a lot to be said by that, and just kind of gives you so much more drive and perseverance with everything you do and anything else you do.
So kind of don't be afraid of the hard work, right? Don't be
Yeah,
afraid to put in the work. And like you said, the bumps and the bruises are part of that learning process, and you're gonna, come out better and stronger because of that.
correct. Yeah.
Any advice for students right now that really want to go into your field, that see your career and like, I want to be there? What would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
I would say reach out, go on LinkedIn, and if you see anybody that you think is doing what you want to do, reach out to them. Just send them a note, say, hey, I have 3 questions. figure out what those 3 questions are going to be, and then you just ask them, like, I just want 5 minutes of your time, and just learn from people, because there's so much out there and people are willing to help. You know, there's a lot of people out there that I'm willing to help. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have tons of experience that are open to sharing with anybody and everybody. It takes a very unique individual to actually do that, to reach out to somebody that they don't know. So that itself is like, you're a hero already. You're a hero to that person already. So take advantage of that. Like, social media has made it accessible. Everybody is one click away. So might as well take advantage of that and use it to your you know, to your benefit, to develop yourself and who you are and what you want to be.
Yeah, just ask, right? Just ask the question. You're not going to know unless you ask. And, you know, even if they say no, right, you're back in the same spot, right? So all you can
Exactly.
do is try again, right? Really nothing to lose. So it's great. Just take that chance. Take that chance on yourself, essentially.
Yep.
That's essentially what they're doing. Okay, thank you so much, Alex. So we have a couple more minutes, maybe just 3 more minutes. So I do want to give some final reminders to our students. As we end our session, we will have a brief survey. So we'll have a QR code on the screen that will pop up. But please feel free to pop any last minute questions on the chat before we end our session. But thank you so much, Alex. I think maybe one final question I do have for you, I think more in terms of advice. We do have high school students and maybe some college students on here as well. And we know those are big transition times. What would be your final piece of advice for them in these transitional, uncertain times where they're making those big next steps?
It's going to be a fun ride. Enjoy it. You know, what you think is the best piece of what you've lived so far is only a sliver of what you're going to be living in the future. So it's going to be fun, and it only gets better. So just keep pushing along, and really utilize your network and your connections and the fulfillment fund. They've been great so far. I've been involved for a bit. And I think, you know, they're very accessible and open to answering any questions. So definitely continue that and use you know, leverage those connections.
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, students, for joining us. We really appreciate your time.